Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, so we're going back to the series, the 70 most difficult questions in Judaism that we began several months ago. Beginning with creation, we went on to discuss the other side of creation, the side that believes that everything is evolution. So we took an in-depth look at their opinions, and really it's more their feelings about it. They have a problem with creation. So we took that apart. Then we went on to the creation of the human being, the differences between the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, talking about the idea of free will. After all, the human being is endowed with free will. He's different than just a regular animal. We spoke about the mazal, which is the destiny, the fate of the human being, how he really has a map that is predestined for him. And then we went into something totally different, and that is the 12 mazalot, the individual mazal, the zodiac of every single month, how each one is different, how each one has different strengths and weaknesses, in order to better understand the human being, his potential, his abilities, and what he really has to accomplish in this world in his lifetime. B'ezrat Hashem, in a couple of weeks from now, we're going to be going over to another very important topic, and that is one's soulmate. What is one's soulmate? The other half of the neshama, his wife, her husband. Hopefully they are married to the right individual, the one that complements the other. And another separate question, how does one figure out, or how does one know who one's soulmate is, if he or she is so important in their life? We're going to be talking about reincarnation, Gilgul Neshamot, which also has to do with Neshamot. Since we spoke about the soul being the most important part of the human being, not his body. So what does it mean that the soul is reincarnated? To many people, this subject is a surprise because they think Hinduism is responsible for making this subject so popular. But in reality, they take it from us in the same way that the Christians and the Muslims took many, many ideas and concepts from Judaism. So reincarnation is a fascinating topic. It's directly it involves directly the neshama, because we're talking about the neshama coming back. So B'ezrat Hashem, these topics we will be discussing after the holidays. Today, we're going to be talking about why HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not allow the human being, the neshama, to know when she's going to leave this world, how long she's going to be here. Wouldn't it be nice to know that one is going to be here for 99 years, or whatever it is, exactly to the day? Or perhaps it's not such a good idea. We want to know why Hashem held back that information. There's certain things that Hashem holds back from us. He does not want us to know. One of them is the day of death. Another is the day of our redemption, when Mashiach will come, which is going to be a separate question. Why doesn't He want us to know when it's going to be the final date that we're going to leave the diaspora, we're going to leave the exile, and go back to Eretz Israel, the Bet HaMikdash will be rebuilt. So that's a separate question. Next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll have a special discussion right before Rosh Hashanah and Kippur about these very special, important days, Yemei Hadin, the days of judgment. But then, after the holidays, we will be going back to the series. The 70 most difficult questions. For those of you who were not here from the very beginning, there may be more than 70, but I compiled the list of questions that are difficult, questions that are interesting, that are very provocative and important for us to know. And Baruch Hashem, there's quite a bit of information in Judaism, even about the most difficult questions. And today's question again is, why don't we know? Why can't a human being know? Why isn't he privileged to this information? And it appears to be that it would be important to know something like that. And Bichlal, is it possible to know in any way whatsoever? As far as we know, Hashem has kept that information from us. So let's go through a brief introduction before we tackle the question. We've discussed the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation, very briefly, why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, was lehetiv. Lehetiv means to do good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants human beings to enjoy His presence HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to enjoy all that He has to offer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all good, and everything that He does is good. Everything that comes down from above is good. We may perceive it as not good, but in reality, everything is good. Our perception, the way we see things, the way we observe, may not be always correct. Especially if you need glasses and you're not wearing them, you're definitely not going to see clear. So just imagine for a moment that we are like without glasses and we really need them. We can't see, we don't understand everything there is. Nonetheless, that is our tradition, that everything in this world, everything that happens is for our good. The whole creation is for our benefit. And in the end, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to enjoy all that He has created. Not only in this world, but especially in the world to come, which is the Olam HaIkar, Olam HaNetzach, the eternal world. Not this temporary world where we come and we go. So this is not it. However, this is a medium in order to reach the Olam Haba. This is a corridor that we have to go through. But in the end, the purpose of this all is that the human beings who are the crown of creation should enjoy all that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to give. After all, He has so much to offer. Who is He going to offer it to? So He made human beings that they should be able to enjoy all that He has to offer. In essence, therefore, the purpose of creation is to give mankind a feeling of what God is. And if you really experience that, it's an incredible experience. We do not always fully experience that in this world because the neshama, which is a part of Him, is closed in a physical body. And by being enclosed in the physical body, it is not capable of fully experiencing, as the Kabbalah calls it, the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we only can fully experience it when we get to Olam Haba. But anyway, in the meantime, we're here, and we need to go through this world in order to get to Olam Haba. This is the Olam HaAsiyah, as it is called in the Kabbalah. The various worlds, the lower world being the Olam HaAsiyah, the world of action, is a necessary world, because in order to get to the other world, one needs to perform certain actions, which is what leads us to the tachlit of the neshama. Right? We just described the tachlit, the purpose of the B'riyah. What is the tachlit of the neshama itself? Again, something that we discussed in the past. That is to do the ma'asim. The neshama in itself cannot do anything because it's spiritual. Hashem puts it in a physical body. And through the physical body, the arms, the feet, the mouth, the ears, right? We're able to perform. And what is it that is asked of us to do? Torah, or mitzvot, and ma'asim tovim. If you're not Jewish, you still have certain basic package of requirements which will give you the ticket of Olam Haba too. You don't have to be Jewish to have Olam Haba. Olam Haba is the Olam HaNetzach. All human beings are invited. Every human being has a neshama. There are different levels of neshamot. Nonetheless, everyone is a Helek Eloka Mimal, has a godliness in him. Some are more divine, some are less divine, some are closer to Him, some are not so close to Him, but nonetheless, they're all precious. They're all His creations. They're all invited. But you need to have a ticket. And that ticket is mitzvot and ma'asim tovim, good deeds. So the tachlit neshama is really twofold. The fulfillment of its personal yi'ud, its personal mission, and the fulfillment of its more general mission. The personal, unique mission that is customized to that neshama. Everyone is different. Everyone somehow has a unique mission that throughout his life, hopefully, if he does the right thing, it will be accomplished, because Hashem will put him together with the right people in the right place, will give him the right tools in order to accomplish that personal, customized mission. A Jew's mission is, of course, somewhat different than a non-Jew's mission. But nevertheless, every neshama has its unique mission that involves certain mitzvot, hopefully many ma'asim tovim, in order to get his ticket to Olam Haba. Personal mission, because every neshama is unique. Just like you have doctors, and you have attorneys, and you have accountants, so too in neshamot. You have rabbis, you have teachers, you have those who circumcise children. You have regular laymen, regular businessmen who are also Jewish and do everything right, but they have different unique missions to their neshama for whatever it is that they have to accomplish. They're brought into this world. However, they also have a general mission. In other words, Hashem brings human beings into this world for a general mission. What's the general mission of every human being, actually, that we all have in common? Is to maintain this world, to make this world a beautiful place, to bring down the presence of God into this world. And we all, by living according to certain standards, we all fulfill, hopefully, the general mission. Just like animals have a general mission, one animal depends on another for its food, this fish, this animal, this bird, right? They have a general mission. The Kadosh Baruch Hu put everything in this world, and everything has a purpose. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing is for nothing. So the neshama, obviously being the most important part of creation, has a mission that it needs to accomplish throughout its lifetime. Rabbis tell us, based on the pasuk in Iyov, Adam le'amal yulad, that one needs to remember, the human being needs to remember, that he is here not to have fun, but le'amal. Le'amal means to work, to labor, to accomplish, to produce, to contribute. All of this means le'amal yulad. He's not here just for the fun of it. He's not here to just enjoy himself, to rest and to take it easy. But he actually has a purpose. He has a mission. Adam le'amal yulad therefore means you are all here for something in common. And that is le'amal, to labor, to produce, to contribute in a very meaningful way. Part of that labor will be for yourself, that you need for your ticket. And part of that labor will be because Hashem needs you in this world. He needs people here to build, to develop, to maintain, and preserve. But all of that is called amal. And this amal, of course, involves mitzvot and ma'asim tovim, but it also involves physical labor. We build buildings, we build homes, we irrigate the land. All of this is called amal. But let's not forget that the main amal is what we need for our ticket to Olam Haba, and that is mitzvot and ma'asim tovim. Rabbis go out of their way to remind us that life is precious. Even though it's true that life comes to an end after 70, 80, 90 years, they go out of their way to remind us that this life is very, very precious. And they tell us as follows. Hayav Adam lomar bishvili nivra olam. A human being has to tell himself, the world was created for me. You're not being selfish by saying so. Why? Because every human being, olam umlo'o, he's an entire world. Where do the rabbis learn this from? The rabbis tell us one of the reasons why Adam Rishon was born, was created by himself, Yehidi, not as a family, one, is to tell us, look at what can happen to one human being. From one human being came out an entire world of billions of people. You know what it is, Chas v'shalom, if somebody is killed? An entire world has been killed. Him, his children and grandchildren. You know what could have come out of one human being? Therefore, al tezalzel, don't look down and don't minimize the value of a human being. Bishvili nivra olam, I have so much potential. So much can come out of one human being. So much contribution can be received from one human being. Therefore, the rabbis tell us, remember this, that you are special in some way. You are an entire world. Now, this is, of course, on condition that one does what is expected of him to do. Shoseh shimush nachon, that he does, of course, he makes good use of his time, he makes good use of the tools that he has received. On condition that he does so, then obviously he's able to produce. Otherwise, Chas v'shalom, he could also be destructive. One has to remember that, even though we're not always aware of this, is that the human being has potential that he may not even know of himself. And we'll be talking about this another time when we talk about why does God test or challenge us. Why does he have to test or challenge us when he knows exactly what we're capable? He knows, but we don't. So sometimes he puts us through a situation so we can discover who we really are, what we're really capable. Man has tremendous potential. in order to convince us, or in order to remind us how life is so special, how life is so precious, there is very clear evidence to this in the fact that everything in creation, every living being, human beings, animals, has an instinct of the desire to live, of the desire to survive. Have you ever seen a deer going over to the lion? Go ahead and eat me. You want dinner? Go ahead. Here I am. I'm told that except for sheep, they go to the slaughter without trying to run away. That's something in their nature. I don't know if they're even aware what's going to happen to them. But except for sheep, deer run away as soon as they hear the roar of the lions. Did you ever see those National Geographic shows? Most animals, as soon as they sense danger, they run. Why not? You're supposed to be food for him. Right? Every animal that I know of, most animals, they try to run away from danger. They don't want to be eaten up. Why not? I actually have a suggestion for all the Muslims who want jihad. Why don't you volunteer for jihad? All of you. All millions. Why do you complain when you are killed? It's anyway jihad. You're anyway a shaheed. Right? So volunteer to be a shaheed. No, most people would like to live, not to die. Obviously, if they have no choice, then they become a shaheed. But in reality, most people want to live. What does this show? That everybody loves life. Everybody appreciates life. Even the poor. There's a lot of poor people in Sudan, in Bangladesh. What else? In China. There's a lot of poor people over the world. Do you see mass suicides? Why not? They're miserable. They're poor. You should have seen some of the pictures of the tsunami, where you had people who had have nothing, how they were mourning that they lost their dear family members, how they did whatever they can to cling to life. But they're so miserable. This is worth living? Apparently it is, even to those who are miserable. Now, there are people who want to escape this misery and commit suicide, but they're the very few. And there are people who have money and who are not happy, right? There are people who want to escape and commit suicide for all sorts of reasons and pressures that they have. But they're the minority. The majority of people value life. So we have a built-in instinct. Hashem has a built-in instinct into human beings, the desire to survive, the desire to want life, and not to run away from it. Another system that preserves life is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu somehow has convinced us and the animals to reproduce. Now, I know there are some countries who are trying to minimize reproduction to maintain certain levels of the population, but the majority of the world, at least most human beings, want to reproduce. They want to have a continuation. What for? Responsibilities, difficulties, just raise children. Also built into the system that the human being, to some extent, some may want large families, some may want smaller families, but to some extent, they want to reproduce. Again, built into the system, Hashem wants to maintain life in this world. Otherwise, imagine if nobody would reproduce, everything would stop. Animals, fish, even sea lions. I mean, anything you can think of. Starfish, octopus, whatever you want. Everything, Baruch Hashem, reproduces. Now, don't ask me about what happened to the dinosaurs, because that was a different lecture. Okay? Certain things can happen in this world for a good reason why Hashem does not need them anymore. But otherwise, Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted the world to continue to exist, life to continue to be in this world, and therefore built-in instinct, the desire to reproduce, the desire or the interest in life, in preservation of life, in survival, and not to run away from it. Rabbis also tell us that even though arrogance, gava, is a terrible midah, right? It's a terrible, despicable characteristic, being arrogant. They tell us that every human being may have and should have 1/8 of an eighth. In other words, 1/16 of it. A little bit of it. You know why? Because that 1/8 of an eighth or 1/16 is called self-esteem. Self-esteem means a little bit of pride about yourself. To have no pride whatsoever is no good. People who are completely depressed, who have given up, they have nothing. Rabbi tells it's healthy, it's okay, it's acceptable, it's good to have a little bit, because that is what we call self-esteem. And you have to have a little bit of that. Otherwise, Chas v'Shalom, you wouldn't have any interest to live. That 1/16 of Ga'ava that we have, that we may have, it is what instills hope in us. It is what allows us to continue to live, to want to contribute, and to want to enjoy life. If we wouldn't have that little bit, then we just give up. We wouldn't want to be around. We would run away from our problems. Anyway, so what do we see from all that we've just covered? From all that we've just covered, we see that Baruch Hashem, the majority of the world, focuses on life and not on death. Even though death is something that's going to be coming, even though death is unavoidable, most of the world, together with the help of Hashem, wants to focus on life and not on death. If that's the case, I can now understand the question that I've always had. Why do people celebrate birthdays? Imagine somebody celebrating his 79th birthday. You know what that means? Sir, you're one day closer to your death. You're getting older. You're downhill after 50. Sorry, after 70. For those of you who are 50. You're going downhill. What are you celebrating? You want 79 candles on your cake to blow out? I mean, what's there to celebrate? It's not such a Jewish concept to celebrate a birthday. There's no birthdays. The only birthday that is celebrated in Judaism, does anybody know which birthday is celebrated in Judaism? 60. You know why 60? Because according to our tradition, you pass 60, you went out of karet. Karet is a chas v'shalom, when a person's life is shortened because of something terrible he did that he has not fixed, corrected. It doesn't mean people who have lived to 51 have died of karet, chas v'shalom. It could be that that's his entire age that was given to him from above. But if somebody's supposed to die, if they want to decrease his years, they make him go before 60. Anyway, 60 is found in the Gemara as an age, a certain time frame, a certain point in life that if you've passed, you should be happy for. Okay. There were different periods in history where some people lived longer, some people lived less. And there's all sorts of reasons of why people live longer and people live less. Nonetheless, that is it. But why should somebody celebrate his 79th, his 84th birthday? You know why? Very simple. Based on what we just explained, people like to focus on achievements. What have I accomplished? I've lived another year in this world. They're not focusing on that it's getting closer and closer to the day of death. So even though we know for a fact that death is going to eventually come, somehow we want to avoid it. Somehow we don't want to think about it. Somehow we want to focus on life. And therefore people celebrate their birthday here, another year, Baruch Hashem, another achievement. That is the idea of why they celebrate birthdays. And that is also what an Epikoros means an heretic, gave us an explanation to Rabbi Yeshua. The Epikoros asked Rabbi Yeshua, why does the Torah say that when God was about to bring the flood on the world, remember the story with the flood? It says that he became very upset and he regretted that he created human beings. God knows everything in advance. If he knew he was going to destroy the world, why did he create it to begin with? Good question, right? That was the question that Epikoros asked Rabbi Yeshua. Good question? You understand the question? He knows what's going to happen anyway. Why create and destroy? So Rabbi Yeshua asked Epikoros, tell me, did you ever have a child? You have children? He says, yeah. He says, when they were born, why were you happy when you knew that they were going to die anyway? One of these days they're going to die. Right? Good. You had children? Why? You knew that they were going to. Why are you so happy that they were born? They're going to die. So the Epikoros answered Rabbi Yeshua, B'sha'at hedvata hedvata, v'sha'at avelta avelta. During the time of celebration, we don't think about anything else. We celebrate. There's a time for mourning, and we will mourn. We don't mix the two. And that's exactly it, Rabbi Yeshua tells the Apikoros. You're right, that's exactly it. Kadosh Baruch Hu is happy to create the world. He focuses on the creation of the world. There may be a time that he may have to destroy. There may be a time when he has to bring an earthquake, a tsunami, a volcano, which may kill people. If it has to come, it has to come. He doesn't mix the two. We focus on life right now. We don't focus on what will happen in the future, especially the distant future. Even though we've just said that life is precious, and most people want to focus on life, most people don't want to think about death, the reality is that death is not so bad. Think about it. What's death? Death, mitah, mavet, is a tremendous kapara for the human being. A lot is accomplished when a person passes away from this world if he had a bundle of sins. The mavet is very powerful in taking away, at least giving him a bit of an atonement. A mavet, the death. Death is powerful. Besides that, when a person is alive, he's very limited. That neshama is being limited, constricted in a physical body. And once, Baruch Hashem, he leaves this world, he's free like a bird. So a mavet mishachareret too. Mavet also liberates you. And besides, isn't that where we're going anyway? Isn't that where we're aspiring to go? Don't we want to go to Olam Haba? So after you leave this world, Baruch Hashem, you've arrived at your final destination. So why shouldn't you be happy about that? And what about if somebody, Chaz v'Shalom, has been suffering, he's blind, he's poor, and he has other problems? So if he dies, he's better. I mean, he feels better. No more blindness, no more problems, no more taxes, no more bills, right? So did you just understand what I just said? I mean, ultimately, in the end, why are people afraid? In the end, it's something to look forward to. If anything, I've finally gotten to my destination where I'm aiming for anyway. Olam haba, olam hanetzach. So in reality, it's not so bad. You know what they say. You know what they say. When people die, everybody's upset. Everybody's crying. Everybody's in mourning. And the guy who passed away is happy. When a child is born, he's crying and everybody's happy. What a world. Yes. No, not really. Tchiyat HaMetim, Bezat Hashem, we're going to talk about. It's a separate subject. What does Tchiyat HaMetim represent? But you must remember that Tchiyat HaMetim, which means that when the dead will rise, the neshama will join its physical body, is a temporary situation. Let's say Tchiyat HaMetim occurs tomorrow. Okay, Bezat Hashem. We're still in the year 57. Let's assume we were 5768. How many years do we have left to the year 6000? 232, right? All you have is 232 years to be with your body. Let's say people who passed away and get up in 57, 68. Yemot HaMashiach of Tchiyat HaMetim, of Neshama with a body, with your old body, will be only 232 years. Or less, depending when Tchiyat HaMetim occurs. After that, it's Olam Haba. There's no guf, there's only Neshamot. There's only souls. It's a spiritual world entirely. There's no more body, no more physical body. So the Tchiyat HaMetim is it's an important event, a very important event, to prove a point, really more than anything else. It does two things. It proves a point that the human being is not destroyed, is not gone, does not disappear. Plus, it will receive the enjoyment, the benefit of having worked so hard. Not only does the neshama get its reward, the physical body that worked so hard in being Jewish is going to get some reward too. That is why the two are joined. But that it doesn't last forever. That's just a temporary situation. Yes? After the year 6000, there are different opinions as to what will happen, but that is an era. That is an era, a period in time that the Pasuk, the Navi says, Ayin lo ra'ata, no eye and no prophet has seen or has any idea of what it will be like. So there are opinions that, of course, even the physical body will be more spiritual. It will be almost non-existent, but still be around. That's possible, but we don't know for certain. All we do know is that it's a completely spiritual world, as opposed to the world that we know as today, including Yemot HaMashiach and Tchiyat HaMetim, that it will be a physical world up until the year 6000. Okay, so even though death has its benefits, what's not good about death? What's not good about death is that rabbis tell us, מכיוון שאדם נפטר מן העולם, הוא נעשה חופשי מן התורה ומן המצוות. The moment a person leaves this world, he has no more chances to be able to perform the mitzvot, to learn Torah that he did while he was alive. As we say in Tehillim, Lo hametim, hallelujah. The dead no longer praise, even though they can. But as the Gemara continues on to say, that מכיוון שנפטר אדם מן העולם ונעשה חופשי מן המצוות, אין לו לקדוש ברוך הוא שבח בו. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does no longer take pride in him. I'm so proud of my son. Once he's dead, he's just a neshama. He has no yetzer hara. He has no evil inclination. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course, is proud of the tzaddikim who have lived their lives when they were alive properly. He's proud of them for other reasons, for their accomplishments. But once a person lives this world, there's nothing to be proud of, really, because there's nothing he can do. He relies a little bit on his children that he left behind, perhaps to give him a boost. But on his own, he's no longer responsible. He's exempt from the mitzvot. There's nothing more he can do for himself. So therefore, once that moment has arrived, there's nothing else that we can do for ourselves. So we don't really, really very much want to get to that point too quick, because then we don't have any more opportunities to make up whatever it is that we lost or we did not do properly. How many years do people spend here as far as age, 70, 80, 90? That is a whole different question. That is something that we do not know why Hashem gives somebody so many years, this one less, this one more. It has a little bit to do with Gilgulim, with reincarnation, but the exact reasons for why this one's 78, this one 84, this one 87, we don't know. All we do know is that the number of years and days and minutes are exactly calculated. Nobody lives here more than what he's supposed to, less than what he's supposed to. Everything is to the minute. But we will soon see that that can change. Nonetheless, there is a cheshbon that only he knows for reasons that only he knows. Okay, so now, Baruch Hashem, we've come to the point that I think, after we've explained the benefits of life, the benefits of death, right? Now we're at the point where we can answer our original question. And what is our original question? Why doesn't Hashem want us to know the day of death? Why doesn't Hashem want us to know the future? Why doesn't Hashem want us to know exactly the day a person will leave this world? Let me ask a better question now. Based on what we know, would it be good for somebody to know when he leaves this world, or is it better that he not know? What do you say? Based on what we've heard, based on what we now know, that will help us understand the original question, why Hashem holds back that information, is it really good for him to know? Perhaps it's really not such a good idea for him to know exactly the day he leaves this world. So, what do you say, based on what we just learned? Huh? Would it be better for him to know? Why is it better not to know?
Then cannot be relaxed in case of knowing.
He won't be relaxed? But what didn't we say before? There's some benefits to death? Some benefits? He's going to be liberated. He's going to go anyway. Yes. If what happens? If he knows the day of death, or if he does not know? If he knows the day of death, what will happen? Oh, depressed. Yeah, that's very possible. Why is that possible? Because we said what we said before. There is an instinct to live, to want to survive. There's something built into us that tells us life is precious. We want to live. And for good reason. Hashem made it so. So you're on target. That's one of the reasons. Yes, you're going to say something else? Oh, you went to good school. Huh? What she mentioned is one of the explanations given, that if somebody were to know the day of death, then he would just enjoy himself, not do anything until the very, very end. Before we answer the question, I just want to share with you the following tradition that we have. It's not so much a tradition, it's just a correct outlook. Judaism teaches a very important correct outlook. There are some people that complain about not being rich. They would love to have money, and they promise that if they had the money, they would build yeshivot and do so much charity. And our correct hashkafa says as follows: if Hashem felt that giving you money would be good for you, would be beneficial, He would have given it to you. The fact that He didn't give it to you is indicative that you're better off without it. You understand that? Because a lot of people are given money, they don't know what to do with it, they do terrible things with it. So the fact you don't have it is good. That's the way Hashem wants it to be. If Hashem felt that it would be good for us to know the day of death, He would have let us know. Obviously, the fact that He withheld that information means what? That we're better off not knowing. Right? That's based on that tradition. Okay? Now, okay, so we don't know. But I have an idea. We don't know on our own. But what about going to fortune tellers? What about going to a psychic? What about going to somebody that will read my hand? And you know what? If you go to a good expert that knows how to read hands, not to fortune tellers, because they'll take your money and they'll tell you nonsense. But what if you really go to a real expert in hand reading, and he can actually come very, very close to telling you how long you will live? Very close. Yeah, it's possible. It's written in the hand. It's actually written in the hand. If you know very well how to read your hands, you can tell more or less, not to the day or to the week, but to the year almost, or at least within 2 years. You could be very, very exact. So what about that? Is anything gone wrong with going to somebody like that who can tell you your future, how long you will live? What do you say? The Torah disapproves of consulting with certain individuals, soothsayers, certain individuals that tell you future events by some means that are not kosher. Now, I'm very careful in how I'm saying this, because I don't want you to think that it's a prohibition against the Torah to consult a palm reader. It's not a prohibition. It's completely permissible to consult a palm reader, but it's not appropriate for you to want to know when you're going to die. Or I should say, it's not such a good idea, but it's not asur. However, it is asur, and it's definitely not acceptable, at least, to consult with tarot cards, soothsayers, mediums, certain individuals who use prohibitive measures of predicting the future. Now, first of all, can people predict the future? Yes and no. They're not going to be exact. They're not prophets. But there's certain things certain people can know. People use demons to figure out certain things. And we'll be talking about, by the way, we'll be talking about why did Hashem make demons? Who needs demons in this world? I mean, I know why we need spiders. I know why we need opossums and cockroaches. I have an idea why Hashem needs these things in the world. By demons? How about angels? What are angels for? So there's a special lecture about why did Hashem create demons and angels. That's in a couple of weeks from now. But for now, there is a way to know the future. If you don't have a prophet, then you're never going to be 100% accurate, 100%. Besides this, Hashem says in the Torah, I don't want you to go to these people to figure out the future. Why not? 3 basic reasons why the Torah does not want us to consult and why certain measures are prohibited. Not all measures. Certain measures of predicting the future are prohibited by the Torah, and for good reason. Torah does not want us to consult with certain individuals about the future because it may lead us astray, where we may, chas v'shalom, get involved in avodah zarah, in worshiping other cults, religions, beliefs, etc. Number 1. Number 2, by consulting other people, by consulting soothsayers, we may get all sorts of ideas into our mind that will weaken our emunah. On that the Torah says, Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha. What does Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha mean? That your emunah should be tmima, shlema, complete, without any doubts. And all these consulting and all this asking may weaken you, may put doubts into your mind, may put ideas that are foreign to Judaism in your mind. So don't get involved with them. Don't even look into it. Number 3, by going to these fortune tellers and finding out certain things, you might become confused, to say the least. Let's say you don't believe. Let's say you're not sure, but you may become confused now that you know certain things. So it's not such a good idea to go with them. So that's as far as consulting with these individuals to try to figure out the future. But as far as the Torah itself, why does the Torah itself not want us to know when we're going to die from this world? So one reason, as was given, is a true reason, that if one would know exactly the day of death, on February 6, 2021, that's when he leaves this world after the ripe age of 77, he's going to wait till the last year of his life, play golf, not go to minyan, not learn Torah, not do masim tovim, no mitzvot. The last year he's going to do teshuvah. Last year he's going to really take it seriously. He says, I have time to enjoy this world. Yeah, there is always that danger that person may push off his entire tachlit and yehud, his mission, to the very, very end. And Hashem says, I didn't bring you into this world to have fun. This is olam ha'asiyah. This is a world of action. I need you to work every day, not just for 1 year of your life. I'm not going to tell you when. This is similar to the other midrash that I once shared with you. Why didn't Hashem reveal to us, and we'll be talking about it another time, the reward for every mitzvah. If He were to tell us this mitzvah is worth more than that, everybody would focus on the big mitzvot, and not the smaller mitzvot. But Hashem wants all the mitzvot to be fulfilled. You were going to ask something? Since what? Right. That's a very good question. Since astrology, even though we spoke about astrology here, I don't advise you to consult astrologers that are not Jewish, because they don't have the similar information that the Jewish religion has, the Jewish astrology. Plus, they don't have an interest in giving you Yirat Shamayim, and they don't have an interest in strengthening your emunah. They're not necessarily instill hope in you and so forth. It's the same, for the same reason that you don't want to go to a non-Jewish marriage consultant, because they don't have the right ideas about what love and marriage is. When it comes to palm reading, of all the mystical sciences, if you can call it that, of all the metaphysical knowledge that is out there, palmistry, or as it's called, chiromancy, is the most accurate one. If somebody knows it very, very well, as long as they have a good reputation that they know what they're talking about, it's not prohibited. But you still have to be very, very strong in the area of Tamim Tiyem Hashem Elokecha, because if you're going to completely rely on Him and you're going to forget some of the principles that Judaism teaches, that the Jewish nation is above the mazal, that we can change our mazal, then you're going to be completely influenced by other things He has to say, just like astrologers would be. The only reason why it's okay is because the science is more exact, and also because it may help. It may help. I know, for example, situations where if in the hand it shows that a man is going to get divorced, and the reason why the divorce is going to happen is because he has a problem. He gambles. He's a gambler. That can all be seen in the hand. If somebody knows how to read the hand well, he can tell that this man has a problem with drinking, or he cheats on his wife, he's a gambler, he's a liar, he's a crook. All of this stands out like a sore thumb in the hand. If you know how to read it, yeah. Good. So if you can help, if you know this, and you can tell the guy, listen, you're going to destroy your marriage. Based on this tendencies that you have, you're going to ruin your life. You're going to create a big scandal at the age of 41. Then you might be doing the guy a favor. If all you're doing is satisfying his curiosity, then you're doing a disfavor to him. Satisfying somebody's curiosity, These people who know how to read, who really are gifted, they should really want to help people. The problem is most people don't want to help themselves. So, so what good is it that they went to this guy? You know, you really have to want to help yourself, and then somebody could really help you. And the area that you can most probably correct may not be your destiny, but it could be your character. You know, you have a problem. This is your problem. You're lazy. You love to eat. You love to do this. A person, you have temperamental. If this is pointed out by somebody who did not know him from yesterday, says, "Oh, wow, how did he know that?" That may be me'orer. That may awaken him to do teshuvah. In that case, if you go to someone that could really help, he may be helped, and it will be permissible completely. Yeah.
I've heard that person knows that they're going to die 40 days before they die.
Yeah.
You heard that?
Okay, that's a good point. I wasn't going to mention that tonight because otherwise we'd be here later. But the Zohar does say that even though we do not know how long we're going to be here exactly, we don't know the day of death, but 30 days, not 40. 30 days before the neshama leaves this world, even the birds know that the man is a dead man. Because at the point of 30 days before, what happens is the tselem, the image of God that is on him, is removed. And if you can somehow detect it on a person, you can say, "Oh, that guy is a dead man. He's leaving the world in 30 days." We don't pay attention. You know, it may just be, "Oh, she didn't put on makeup this morning. You know, she doesn't look that good." You know, we may not be able to figure out what it means and why does she or he look different. But that is the Zohar says it's because the tselem has left him. So you're right. And the person himself, if he pays attention to his dreams, if he notices certain things around him, he can detect. A lot of people, I'll tell you a secret, okay? I wasn't going to tell you, but people who have had a full life usually, before they leave, I don't know exactly how many days, they see in their dream their parents who have passed away coming to pick them up. They don't know. They don't know, "Oh, what am I seeing all that? Why all of a sudden? I haven't seen him for 25 years in the dream, and all of a sudden I see him." Many times he's coming to take you. I mean, coming to accompany you, because that's what happens. We'll talk about it later. When the neshama leaves this world, his parents come to greet him, come to take him, come to accompany. And many people, if you were present by somebody that was just passing away, as it's called in Hebrew, goses, on his deathbed, you may even hear him or see him doing like this with his hands. I see them. They're coming. Even though he can't describe it, he's in a semi-coma. If you are lucky and you are around somebody a few seconds before, or a few minutes before, or an hour before, many times, not sometimes, many times, you can see that they are relating to some presence that's there. Because according to our tradition, the Zohar says, and elsewhere it's brought down, that what a person does not see in this world while he's alive and awake, he sees right before his death. My grandmother, Alaa Shalom, told my aunts, her daughters, "Oh, I'm sorry, I really need to go now. I see him now." She meant the angel of death, the Malach HaMavet. She saw it very clearly. "I see him now. He's coming to take me." And she's not the only one. A lot of people have said that. Does everyone say that? Does everybody behave? Not everybody behaves the exact same way right before he dies. Some people are comatose. Some people are in a coma completely. Some people are, not in this world. But some people are completely aware of their surroundings and they see things. Some maybe more, some less. Yes?
So what happens, because I worked for a couple years with Torah and I see it.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people where they're ready to die or we get patients from nursing homes that
Right.
are pretty much comatose but on full life support.
Right.
So how does that, I don't get it. Like they're already dead, but they're technically not dead because you have ventilators and medication.
As long as the heart is beating, right? As long as there's brain waves,
But what if there's something making the heart beat?
makes no difference. A part of their nefesh is still in there. It has not left them completely.
But what if there's no brain activity? Because you can have a heart beating and you can have blood flowing with absolutely no brain waves.
No, once the brain waves have stopped, the person is dead. According to Judaism, the way to test if somebody's dead is if he's not breathing for a certain amount of minutes. Once this breathing, just breathing, because they didn't, 100 years ago, 2,000 years ago, they weren't going to measure brain waves. How do you tell if somebody's dead? You never know 100% until 3 days have passed. As it's brought down in Chazal, they would go to the grave after 3 days The burial was somewhat different back then. It wasn't completely underground. And some people just get up after a day or two. You thought he was dead, and he came back alive. He may have had a near-death experience. The only way you know, not for certain, but you know that he's dead as far as giving him a certificate, is if you stop breathing for a certain amount of minutes. That is how we check for life. Not pulse, not brain waves. But medically speaking, if there are no brain waves, he's dead. Just because you were able to get the heart to pump, that's artificial. That's not called life. Yes? Oh, you're going back to the question as far as... What is that? Sure, her question has to do with my question. My question was, why isn't it such a good idea for a person to know the day he leaves this world? Yom HaPtira, Yom HaMitah. So she was suggesting that perhaps if one does not know, he will be more sensitive to his surroundings. Yeah. Well, obviously, there are basically three explanations. One that was suggested earlier, one which pushed things off till the very, very end. And if that would happen, he would unfortunately emphasize the needs of the body much more than the needs of the neshama. He would focus more on his physical body. Another reason why Hashem does not want us to know about it is because Hashem wants us to think about teshuvah every single day. That is what vidui is. That is what teshuvah is all about. Hashem wants us to think about it every single day, not to push it off. Otherwise, chas v'shalom, a person again would focus more on his physical body and much more than his neshama. Nevertheless, rabbis do tell us as soon as you get close to the age of your parents, you do want to worry 5 years before and 5 years after. Because after all, naturally speaking, al pi derech hateva, statistically, the chances are that you're going to live close to their age because that is what the genes are. A lot has to do with the genes. Yeah. So therefore, you need to be concerned when you get close. Does that mean you're going to die there? No, not necessarily, but be concerned. So the rabbis wanted us to always be concerned about teshuvah, always involve ourselves in vidui, right before you go to sleep, din v'cheshbon. And then we go to the other explanation, that obviously if somebody would be aware of his day of death, he would be very much depressed. He would be saddened. He would be thinking about it a lot. Even though we talked about the benefits of life, we also spoke about the benefits of death. That there has some benefits to death. But it would still sadden, it would depress us, because it's much more overwhelming positive to live than to die. That's just the instinct that Hashem has given us. We have more of a desire to live than to die, more of a desire to be around than to go away. Especially if you have children and grandchildren that you're attached. You don't want to leave that behind. So because it's more overwhelming, the feeling of life is stronger than the desire or the interest of dying. Therefore, it would be depressing. It would be difficult for us if we knew exactly when we would leave this world. Now, but here's a surprise. Hashem does not want us to know the day of death for another reason altogether. Because even though the day of death has been determined upstairs, it could change. It could change. It could be shortened or it could be lengthened. So why tell you the day of death? That is one of the reasons why Hashem does not tell us when Mashiach is coming. Why tell us when Mashiach is coming? Mashiach depends on when we want it to come. We can bring him sooner or he can come later. So certain things are not fixed in stone. It could change. People have left this world early. You know why? Because they smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. They were supposed to live to 87. They went at 58. Why 58? Not because of the genes, not because of a heart attack. And they say, oh, it's a heart attack. Yeah, but they always blame things. They should either be blaming themselves for what they did. They could have shortened their life. They could have reduced the amount of years that they were supposed to be here. They're to blame. Or sometimes it's not completely their fault. They were drafted into the army. And rabbis tell us, any time that you're b'makom sakana, you're in a dangerous place, your books are opened. Should we make a miracle or not? Why do you need a miracle? Well, he has to avoid many mines. He has to avoid many bullets, many shrapnel. There's a lot of things to avoid. We have to move him around. A lot of kids at 20, 21 leave this world before their time. They were supposed to live to a nice age, 90 years old, based on genes, based on mazal, based on whom. They left early. Why? Because they were b'makom sakana. They had no, but it's not their fault. What happens to them? We'll be talking about after the holidays when we talk about reincarnation. Again, yeah.
Last chapter 4,
Yeah.
last Mishnah,
Yeah.
quickly on this, tells us that against your will you die, and
Right.
against your will you're born.
Mhm.
The commentaries bring down that if we're forced to be in this world, why are we upset when we die? The answer
Right.
is because when a person is sick, he's still fighting for life. And the fact that he's still fighting for life, that's proof that you still want to live.
Yeah, right. We said that in the very beginning. That there's an instinct to want to live. And if a person were to know the day of death, he would be depressed. And when a person is depressed and sad, he does not function well. And Hashem, of course, wants us to function properly, to do the mitzvot properly, besimcha. He therefore does not allow us to focus or to know about death too much. Yes?
There's also maybe to do it that we don't know that we're going to die. We really know that we're going to die because that's what we learned.
Yeah. Some people think they're never going to die. You're right. Yeah. 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 Now, on top of everything we've... Yes? The tzelem leaves them, right, 30 days before they die. No, everybody's tzelem leaves it before. Something leaves them before. Just that the type of death is different by a tzaddik than by somebody else. That's what tzelem is part of the divine presence on him. I guess they translate the image, the aura, something that leaves him. That has nothing to do with the nefesh. Yeah. All right. Besides all the explanations that we just gave of why people are not focused so much on death, and Baruch Hashem, we're not, there's something else which is not so good, but it helps us forget about death too. And that's called the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara, amongst other things, does a very incredible thing. Don't think about for a moment that he tries to discourage us from doing mitzvot. Don't think for a moment that he tries very hard to get us to do terrible things. That's the usual, the typical. There's something else the Yetzer Hara does all the time, and he does very well. And that is, he makes us forget about how valuable the time is. In Hebrew, it's called Hesech HaDa'at. He distracts us. Now, let me give you an example of the distraction of the Yetzer Hara. Listen, you got to get yourself the American dream of having a house and a dog, right? Building yourself up, business, successful, a nice car, vacation, a house in Palm Springs maybe too, right? This is the way the Yetzer Hara tries to distract you. Now, how does he distract you? How does he distract you? There's nothing wrong with having a house in Palm Springs. You can have a house in Israel in Palm Springs and Lake Tacoma, Washington. I mean, whatever you want. It's okay. If you have the money, fine. You know what the problem is? The Yetzer Hara, in allowing you to think about all these things, he's going to make you waste a lot of time in getting these things. And a lot of time is wasted in emphasizing the body, the physical needs of the body instead of the needs of the neshama. And all for what? In order that you should be able to live a good life, in order that you should be able to rest and enjoy yourself. When we know, deep down the neshama knows, that this is not the ikar, this is not the main world anyway. We want to build ourselves a home in Olam Haba, not over here. So even though what we do here is necessary, we want to have a good car that runs, we want to have a comfortable home. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that people get their priorities all messed up and they focus and concentrate more on these things which are not as, they don't come close to the real things. Let me ask you a question. Let's say your entire savings is $20,000 and you got to marry off your child. Okay? You have a choice. You can make a small wedding and your daughter will still be married and save yourself most of that savings, or make a big wedding just like your neighbors and show off. Or borrow money, get into debt, and feel miserable about it. Right? And have no savings left. What would you do? Well, it depends if you're Persian or not. Somehow, I don't know why, I'm not blaming anybody in particular, but the Persian community has a problem. They have to hire a singer, just a singer alone. He's not Jewish and he costs them $10,000. Yeah. Give the money to your kids. Why go into debt and why spend all your savings just to show off? But people have pressures. People have the wrong priorities. There's two kinds of weddings in the Torah. You know that? Two weddings that are mentioned in the Torah. The wedding of Lavan, he invited the entire city just to show off. And the wedding of Boaz with Ruth, where there were only 10 people present, and these 10 people were senior citizens. They don't eat a lot. Which wedding do you want? Do it in your backyard. I'm serious. Whoever said and whoever wrote nowhere that you have to make a wedding for 500 people? You have to feed them? I guarantee you that if you, on your invitation to your friends, write, there's no food, very few are going to come. You know who's going to come to a wedding where you wrote no food in the invitation? Your real friends. Real ones. The real ones. And they're less than a minyan. Why feed people who are not true friends? Why? I don't understand it. I don't believe in it. And Judaism does not support this idea. It's just purely pressure. Society, oh, what is it going to look like? They're going to think I'm stingy. Let them think you're stingy. Well, what's the big deal? What are you afraid of? They're going to forget about it the next night anyway. Exactly. What's that?
All our mitzvahs are done with food, like Rosh Hashanah.
If you have $10 million in your savings account, besides your mutual funds, okay? If you have $10 million, you are entitled. According to the halakha, a rich man, a really rich man, is entitled to have a bigger wedding. Yes, it's his kavod. It's part of his kavod to invite more people, to serve steak and kachke. How do you say kachke in English? Duck and salmon. He's entitled. What? And a Viennese, what do they call it? A Viennese table. He's entitled. But what about those who go into debt for this? I feel bad for them. Anyway, getting back to what we were saying. The Yetzer Hara, you see the Yetzer Hara? Distracts everyone to emphasize the bodily needs, pressure, people, make them happy. Shtuyot. The neshama is more important. Anyway, so there was, Baruch Hashem, one smart guy who wasn't misled. Let me tell you a story. It's a true story. I think it happened with one of the presidents of the United States. He went to Miami. And he saw a fisherman in the middle of the day taking a siesta. And he goes over to him and says, "You're a fisherman?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "What are you doing resting? Why aren't you out working, catching fish?" He says, "Thank God I already caught my fill for the day. Why should I go out to catch more?" "What do you mean? Look at your boat that you have. Such a simple, cheap, small boat. Do you know that if you worked more, you'd be able to buy yourself a big boat, a bigger boat?" He says, "And what would I do with a bigger boat?" "You would catch more fish." He says, "And what happens if I catch more fish? Then you'd be able to have two boats." "And what would happen if I would have two boats?" He says, "You wouldn't have to borrow money to buy the boats. You'd own your boats. You'd buy a home with it. You'd be happier." He says, "What happened if I would have the bigger boats and catch more fish?" And he says, "You would be able to take it easy and rest and not work so hard." He says, "That's exactly what I'm doing right now." That's exactly what I'm doing right now anyway. See, but that's what the Yetzer Hara tries to do. It tries to mislead you, distract you. Work hard. You owe it to yourself. You need a vacation. You need a good car. You need a good home, blah, blah, blah. But you have to work hard to get to those things. And in the meantime, before you realize that, after you finally made it to the top, after a person's finally made his money, then Hashem takes him, pulls the plug out. He worked so hard. Let him enjoy it now. No. He may work out just to get there. Then Hashem pulls the plug on him. Does it make any sense? But that's the job of the Yetzer Hara. So on top of all of the reasons why we said before that the people are not focused on the day of death, in reality the Yetzer Hara also distracts us. But this one is a dangerous distraction because he doesn't want us to focus on the tachlit, on our ultimate mission, on our ultimate purpose in life. And that's no good. And that's the biggest mistake people make when they work so hard for their physical needs. If their mazal is not so good, they're never going to make millions of dollars anyway. They think that if they work hard and they invest and they buy real estate, that they're going to make it. Who says? If your mazal does not go along with it, then no matter how hard you work from tomorrow, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, if your mazal does not agree with it, nothing will come out of it. If your mazal is great, you can work 1 hour a month and sell a 12-carat diamond and make, you know how long does it take to sell a 12-carat diamond? Anybody here know? 12 carats is expensive. Anybody know here about diamonds? Does anybody know here about diamonds, precious stones? A blue diamond, blue, clean, 12 carats. Anybody know how much it's worth? You're getting close. You may be 5 million. Who knows? It's priceless. 12 carats, blue, clean, pink. Yeah. Anyway, how long will it take him to sell the 12 carats? It depends on the customer. If the customer knocks on the door, it may take 2 minutes. If the right customer knocks on the door, it could take 2 minutes. Does he have to work for the rest of the month? Maybe not even for the rest of the year, right? How long did it? Yeah. No, 12 carat, no. It usually brings in parnassah for 6 months to a year, depending on your standard of living. Yeah. How long did it take? It's on Mashamayim. You know what? He doesn't know English. He's Kurdish. From Kurdistan. He doesn't know any English. And he still made the money. No English, no PhD, no college, nothing. You know people like that? They don't know anything, they make good money? More than you? How did they do it? It's the mazal. So here people are working so hard. Who says the mazal agrees with them? It's all atzat hayetz. It's called advice of the Yetzer Hara. Anyway, just to end up on a good note, Shlomo Melech tells us, Tov Yom HaMavet Mi Yom Hivaledo. We've been talking about so much how life is precious, how life is important. But nonetheless, he says, Tov Yom HaMavet Mi Yom Hivaledo. The day of death is better. Why is the day of death better? Because when a baby is born, all babies are cute. But that baby may become a monster. Right? We don't know what a person accomplished in this life, if he really made good use of his time, if he was really a good man, until we eulogize him at the funeral. So Tov Yom HaMavet, if he made good use of his time, then the day of death really is better because at least he accomplished. Life is unpredictable. When a person is still alive, he can go to the lowest of the lowest. There is a saying in the Chazal, with a ben sorer u'morer, a rebellious child who's put to death when he's a teenager. He's a teenager. Let him die. Yamut zakai, lo yamut chayav. Let him die while he still has merits and he's not a big sinner. Let him die early before he can get any worse. There is such an idea in Judaism that sometimes Hashem takes from this world a child before he becomes too old, while he's still a little bit of a tzaddik, before he gets worse. Because Tov Yom HaMavet, the only time we can really say the day of death is better is when it was a life full of accomplishment. Okay, in order to be able to, Baruch Hashem, to Bezrat Hashem, get to that point, that somebody would be able to actually look back at his life and feel happy, and for people to really eulogize him, there has to be constant din v'cheshbon. As the Gaon of Vilna says, we're getting close now to Rosh Hashanah, so this is a very important point. There's a difference between din v'cheshbon. When we get to the world upstairs, we're going to have to give an accounting. What's the difference between din and cheshbon? They both mean an accounting. Din is for everything we did. Cheshbon is for everything that we could have done, that we did not do during the time that we were busy doing other things. You were busy reading the LA Times at the time that you could have been saying Tehillim, learning Torah. You were reading the gossip section of the newspaper, the sports section. How could you compare that? You spent so much time on shtuyot. You could have been doing good things. Din v'cheshbon. If a person gives an accounting to himself on a daily basis, or at least once a year, but Rabbi encourages every day before he goes to sleep and says Kriyat Shema, then he has a better chance of being able to do the right things. Upstairs, as you know, it is told that there is also matzevot. Matzevot is a tombstone. The tombstone or monument down here says, this man was 90 years old, right? He was born in 1907 and passed away in 1997. So he's 90 years old, long life, right? Comes upstairs and they told him, look at your matzevah. He looks at his matzevah upstairs and he says he lived for 2 years. 2 years? I lived for 90. I'm sorry. Here we calculate age differently, but the actual years you actually lived. You spent 45 years in bed, you know that? You were asleep half the time. Is that, you call that living? See what I mean? So upstairs they have a different way of calculating one's life. Yeah. Right. Right.
In other words, you get one din b'cheshbon when you come up to the world, and then when you get rewoken again, you have to go to another din b'cheshbon whether you're worthy to be alive.
Oh, sure. That's Yom Adin Gadol V'Norah, the big day of judgment for all the reincarnations when a person has Tchiyat HaMetim. That's right. Anyway, so in order to succeed in the din and the cheshbon, obviously one has to make a cheshbon nefesh all the time and be careful with his priorities. That if his priorities are wrong, he will be focused on the wrong things. Let me ask you a question, and with this we'll end. Is long life good? We spoke about the benefits of life, the benefits of death, and why Hashem does not want us to know when we're going to leave this world. So we should be focused on doing teshuvah and correcting, not pushing things off, not being depressed, not thinking about the end, thinking about what we can do now. But does it make a difference how many years we'll live? How about if somebody were to live to 120? Isn't that what we wish everybody? Is that a good thing, to live a long life?
It's a productive, a good, and healthy life.
What if somebody has Alzheimer's for the last 40 years of his life? Is that a good? But he lives to the 117. What if he lived 70, but every day was productive and perfect and good and healthy? Isn't the 70 good years better than 110, and the last 35 are miserable, dependent on people, old age homes? Like Rabbi Manila just said, if they're not productive, then what for? But we all ask for Chaim Arukim, long life, as long as they're productive. So that's a very important point, and with this I want to end. The Ashkenazim have a beautiful prayer that they say on Birkat HaChodesh. Sfaradim say something else, but they say something which is brought down in the Gemara Tfilat Rav, and I will share it with you. Even though Rosh Hashanah, as you know, Rosh Chodesh Tishrei is the only month of the year that we do not call out or announce. It is announced in Mekudash B'Shamayim. Nevertheless, the prayer is very befitting because it talks about what a meaningful, productive life is. We ask Hashem, Yeh ratzon lefanecha Hashem Elokeinu ve'Elokei Avotenu shetechadesh alenu tachodesh hazeh letova ve'livracha. That we want to have a very good month, a prosperous month. V'titen lanu chaim aruchim, a long life, chaim shel shalom, a life of peace, chaim shel tova, of good, chaim shel beracha, of blessing, chaim shel parnasa, of livelihood, chaim shel chilutz atzamot, that in case chas v'shalom we got sick, that we are able to recuperate and recover, that our structure, our atzamot, our bones are in good working order. Chaim sheyesh b'im yirat shamayim v'yirat chet, a life that is full of God fearing, of yirat chet, of fear of sin. Chaim she'en b'hem busha uchlima, a life that there's no embarrassment, no shame. Chaim shel osher v'kavod, of wealth and honor. Chaim she'teh banu ahavat Torah v'yirat shamayim, a life that we should have and show the true love of Torah and fear of God. Chaim she'imaleh Hashem esholot libenu l'tovah, Hashem should give us a life that all our wishes are fulfilled for the good. For the good? Yeah, because sometimes people wish for the wrong things. And we ask Hashem, if it's really bad for us, don't give it to us. So, Chaim Shemaleh Hashem Yishalot Libenu Letovah, that all our wishes should come true if it's for our good. But the common denominator of this prayer, the main idea here is, we're talking about long life, but what is a good long life? A life of Torah, a life of Ahavat Hashem, of Yirat Hashem. And that is, of course, what we all should wish for, and that is what we all should aim for. And if we have that kind of a life, that is a life worth living. And obviously, the more years you spend in this world with a productive life, then it's a better life. But, in the same vein, a person who lived a short life of only 52 years, but they were quality years, should we feel sad? Well, we feel sad that he left this world early, that we don't have the ability to enjoy him, that he left behind children. But his life was productive. His days were used properly. And Hashem knows, and only Hashem knows, why he only gave him 52 years. But what really counts is the quality of life, not the number of years. But Bezat Hashem, let us be the will of Hashem that we should have a long life and a life of good quality, Bezat Hashem.